At the beginning of the story, we see a plane struggling through a terrifying storm. Our main character, Chuck, was calmly sitting in the toilet when suddenly the plane lost pressure. The toilet door burst open and a fire broke out in the cargo, leading to a dangerous explosion. The pilot quickly made Chuck sit in the seat because an emergency landing in the ocean was needed. He gave Chuck a life raft and told him to fasten his seatbelt. The plane started falling rapidly, and now it was only about 3,000 meters above the ocean. At that moment, Chuck realized that the pocket watch given by his girlfriend had fallen. The pilot told him to wear a life jacket, but it was far away. Because of the pocket watch, Chuck unbuckled his seatbelt and stumbled to pick it up, but as soon as he grabbed the watch and tried to move, the plane tilted and he couldn't move at all. The pilot noticed Chuck was not in his seat, so he also removed his seatbelt. Due to strong shocks, the pilot got badly injured. Somehow, he managed to land the plane slowly on the ocean's surface, but the landing was rough and water started filling the cabin. Because Chuck was not wearing his seatbelt, he survived. Suddenly, the top of the plane burst open and seawater rushed inside. Luckily, Chuck had an inflatable raft in his hands, but when he tried to open it, it got stuck in the plane. The sinking plane began pulling him down with it. Fortunately, the rope attached to the raft suddenly broke, and the raft pulled him out from the mouth of death. Finally, Chuck reached the surface of the ocean safely. Using all his strength, he tried to climb onto the raft and held onto its edge tightly. But slowly, he started drifting toward the still-running engine. Seeing danger, he closed his eyes. Suddenly, the engine caught fire and exploded, throwing him back into the ocean. The entire plane sank into the sea with a massive blast. However, the danger was not over yet. Now, Chuck had to face a violent storm and huge waves in the ocean. He kept holding the rope of the raft tightly. After a long time, the raft started losing air. Sharp rocks tore it apart, which meant he had finally reached land. With his last bit of strength, he dragged the raft to the shore. The next morning, when sunlight hit his face, he realized he was alive and had drifted onto a small island. But even after escaping death, he found no relief. He had no idea what dangers awaited him on this unknown island. As he walked, he collected scattered items from the plane and started searching for other survivors. But everywhere he looked, he was greeted only by endless silence.
It became clear that he was stuck on an island that didn't even exist on the map. He shouted, "Is anyone here?" but got no response. To survive, he started thinking of different ways to save himself. For now, the only thing he could do was write a help sign on the beach. Soon night fell, and he still hoped that a passing boat might see him. But as darkness grew, his hope slowly turned into fear because of the silence around him. He trembled constantly, hearing the sounds of dangerous animals in the jungle. The next day, he used the collected items to make a temporary resting place and started checking the things from the plane. Now the only meaningful thing he had left was the pocket watch given by his girlfriend. Thinking about the moments he spent with her, he regretted boarding the plane even more. Before leaving for a business trip, Kelly had given him that pocket watch so that when she returned on Christmas, they could get married. But a sudden plane crash stopped their future forever. While everyone in his family believed that Chuck had died in the accident, he continued to survive with determination. However, on this deserted island, finding food and water became a huge problem. No one knew how long he could survive. He gathered many parcels from his company, but he decided not to open them. For him, it was a matter of honesty in his work. Even though he was stranded on an unknown island, he still did not want to break the trust of his customers. The help sign he had made on the beach the previous day had already been washed away by the ocean waves. He had to write help again using some broken pieces of wood. Slowly, Chuck's desire to stay alive grew stronger. He knew that if he wanted to escape from this place, he had to survive at any cost. But on this deserted island, he found nothing to eat except hard coconuts. And since he had no tools to break them, opening a coconut became a very difficult task for him. Finally, he used a sharp stone to crack one open and drank its water, which felt like nectar to him at that moment. But he was not satisfied with just coconuts. To fill his stomach, Chuck decided to explore other parts of the island. He wanted to climb the highest point to see everything around him. However, the sharp rocks on the hill made his journey difficult, so he tore some cloth from his pants, added leaves, and made a pair of makeshift shoes. When he finally reached the top, he realized that it truly was a deserted island. There was only ocean stretching endlessly in every direction, and not a single human in sight. As he stood there feeling hopeless and wondering how he could save himself, something strange in the distance caught his attention. Without thinking, he ran toward it. He thought it might be another pilot who had survived like him.
But when Chuck turned the body over, he saw that the pilot had died a long time ago. With a heavy heart, he dragged the body to the island and collected some useful items from it. He kept a pair of usable shoes, a torch that still worked, and an old wallet. After that, he dug a grave for the pilot, buried the body, and wrote the date of death on a rock. In the evening, Chuck sat on the beach, staring at his shoes. He felt a strange sadness. He thought that maybe next time it would be him lying in that grave. Because of this thought, he couldn't sleep that night. He realized that if he stayed idle, he would surely die. So the next day, he began learning how to survive in the jungle. He collected dew from leaves and stored it in coconut shells for drinking water. He sharpened a wooden stick to make a spear for catching fish. Even though his efforts seemed foolish, they kept him from losing hope. That night, while going to the toilet, he saw a distant light. He shouted loudly, hoping to attract the attention of a passing boat. He felt that maybe he wouldn't have to stay here anymore. He used his torch to signal, hoping someone would see him. But the distance was too great, and the faint light was useless. As the light slowly disappeared from his sight, his heart filled with anger and helplessness. The next morning, as soon as the sun rose, he took his damaged raft and moved toward the direction of the ship. This was his only chance to escape after many weeks of struggle, and he was not ready to lose it. He tried again and again to cross the sea, but the strong waves kept pushing him back. He showed courage countless times, but every time the ocean defeated him. Still, he refused to give up. But in the end, the waves pulled him under the water. As he struggled, his thigh hit a sharp rock, causing a deep injury and severe bleeding. Now he had no strength left to continue. He dragged himself and the broken raft back to the shore in terrible condition. By evening, a strong storm and heavy rain began. This made his situation even worse. Using the raft, he could only cover the company parcels. Then, with his injured leg bleeding, he searched for a place to hide from the rain. Soon, he found a small cave. To stay conscious, he drank a few sips of dirty rainwater. Completely exhausted, his injured body gave up and he fell unconscious on the ground. As the battery of his torch died, everything around him was covered in darkness. The next morning, he woke up in severe pain. His leg wound showed signs of infection. On this deserted island, if it was not treated, it could become very dangerous.
To have even a small chance of survival, he had to let go of his stubbornness. Finally, he decided to open the parcels. Inside the packages, he found a dozen videotapes, a volleyball wrapped like a gift, a beautiful long dress for a woman, and a stylish pair of skates. But he decided not to open the last parcel. Maybe he didn't want to feel disappointed, or maybe he wanted to keep a little hope alive. He used the foam from the package to cover his wound. Then he untied the shoelaces and used them as a temporary bandage. The blades of the skates became his most useful tools, and from the black net of the long dress, he made a simple fishing net. With his fishing tools, after many days, he was finally able to eat a full meal. To make it easier to swallow raw food, Chuck decided to start a fire by rubbing wood together. But even after trying from morning till evening and then all night, he could not create a fire. As his hands got scraped and started bleeding, his frustration burst out. The difficult life on the island and his old injuries had completely broken him. Sitting on the shore, he cleaned his wounds with water, but the sharp pain reminded him again of his harsh reality. Now, survival had become a question he could not avoid. The volleyball he had thrown in anger was lying near his feet. On it, the fresh red mark of his hand was clearly visible. Suddenly, he got a strange idea. Using his saliva, he drew 2 eyes and a small smile on the handprint. Now, the volleyball looked like a human face. Because of his extreme loneliness, he decided to make this face his friend. He named the volleyball Wilson and kept it with him so it could stay by his side. It may have seemed strange, but at least he didn't feel completely alone anymore. With Wilson by his side, Chuck seemed to regain his strength. As he kept rubbing the wood faster, sparks finally appeared. Seeing the fire, he felt incredibly happy, as if he had won a big battle. This fire became not only a way to cook food, but also a signal to show that someone was alive on the island. At night, while eating, he would talk to Wilson about his situation. According to his calculations, he was now more than 4,000 miles away from where he started. This meant that the chances of someone finding him were almost impossible. But he had no other choice. He just kept trying to stay strong and survive. Eating raw food and living in dirty conditions caused his teeth to become swollen and infected. Finally, unable to bear the pain, he decided to pull out his own tooth. He placed the skate blade against the tooth and held a stone in the other hand. He thought it was better to face one moment of pain than suffer for a long time. Then he struck hard.
Even after becoming skilled at surviving in the jungle, the spark in his eyes was gone. Over 4 years, Chuck had turned into a wild man. Though he was good at catching fish and never lacked meat, the will to truly live had faded from his eyes. Now he had no hope of escape. Each day of survival felt like just another day of loneliness. But one day, he found a piece of tin near the rocks and brought it to the shore. When the sea wind knocked it over, an idea suddenly came to his mind. If he could use it to cut through the waves, maybe he actually had a chance to escape. The moment he got this idea, he didn't wait any longer. He wanted to leave this deserted island as soon as possible. Chuck immediately got to work. First, he needed to build a boat. He gathered many branches and placed them together. Then he used wild vines as ropes to tie everything. He even used the useless videotapes as ropes. Now his mental state began to worsen. He started feeling that Wilson was watching him and didn't want him to leave. Because of this, one night he argued with Wilson. "I can't spend my whole life talking to you. Do you hear me, you useless volleyball?" In anger, he kicked his 4-year-old friend far away. But after some time, when he calmed down, he felt deep regret. That night, in the darkness, he went out searching for Wilson and gently restored his face again. Days passed like this, and finally, Chuck's wooden boat was ready. He prepared everything he needed to leave the island. Now he was just waiting for the right wind direction so he could launch his boat into the sea. He had also left a sign showing that he was stranded there. He had survived on that cruel island for more than 10,500 days, almost like a world record. As he was carving the last letter, suddenly the wind started blowing in the direction he wanted. Excited, Chuck pushed his boat into the ocean and set off in search of life, along with his old friend Wilson. The waves were still as dangerous as before, but they could not stop him from going home. Each wave was strong enough to almost drown him, but he kept cutting through them with determination. Every time he escaped death, his hope grew stronger. When Chuck looked back at the small island that had trapped him for 4 years, he felt something strange in his heart. If he had not fought so hard, he might still be living a lonely life there. But his struggle was just beginning. He had no idea that even more dangerous challenges were waiting ahead. Just when he thought he would eventually reach human civilization, a massive storm struck again. That night, heavy rain made it impossible to even open his eyes. He held onto his boat helplessly as the waves attacked him again and again. It was the toughest night of his life. He was completely helpless and left everything to fate.
Luckily, Chuck survived that deadly storm, but his boat was badly damaged, and most importantly, his old friend Wilson was separated from the boat as the rope came loose. By the time he realized it, Wilson had already drifted far away with the waves. Wilson was his only companion, the one he shared his feelings with. Even though it was just a volleyball, it was his only support. Without thinking, Chuck jumped into the sea to save him. But the distance was too great and the deep ocean terrified him. On one side was the boat that could save his life, and on the other was Wilson, his only friend of 4 years. Helplessly, he watched Wilson drift away. "Wilson, I'm sorry," he cried. With that, he lost his only friend. Once again, loneliness and helplessness surrounded him. Looking at his broken boat and the endless ocean, Chuck understood that he might never return home. Finally, he threw away his paddle and decided to give up. He chose to quietly wait for the ocean to take him. Just when Chuck was ready to face death, he suddenly heard the sound of a whistle, something he had only heard in his dreams. Gathering his last bit of strength, he turned and saw a huge cargo ship in front of him. The people on the ship noticed him, and after years of struggle, Chuck was finally rescued and returned home by plane. His survival story made him famous in the entire city. But Chuck didn't care about fame. He only wanted to meet his girlfriend, whom he had not seen for 4 years. But when he reached her house, a man opened the door instead. Shocked, Chuck listened as the man said, "I am Kelly's husband." At that moment, Chuck realized that the woman he had been waiting for was now married and had a child. Kelly's husband calmly tried to explain and defend her, saying, "Maybe you should give her some more time," and then he left.
Seeing Kelly crying, Chuck understood everything. He knew it was not her fault. Maybe he would have done the same. That night, the company organized a welcome dinner with seafood. As Chuck looked at the delicious fish and big crabs on the table, he felt something strange. On the island, these same things had felt like survival food, but here they were a luxury. The next day, Chuck delivered the parcel that he had never opened on the island and included a thank you letter. He expressed his gratitude, saying that this package had saved his life. He never opened that mysterious parcel, choosing instead to let it remain a symbol of hope. And with that, this incredible story comes to an end.